Thank you all so much for coming. So, as you've probably gathered, I'm going to talk about Twitter. I'm currently based at the Marsden in London. So these four guys came up with Twitter and hatched their plan in 2006. And at that stage, they described it as tweeting short bursts of inconsequential information. Really, for both for the founders and for people that have been involved in Twitter, it's become much more of an information network. And as a testament to that, as far back as 2012, there were 1.6 billion search queries per day. And then that figure, I don't have any later statistics, but I'm sure has increased. PRS has been very innovative, and as really the lead, I think, on social media and plastic surgery, has been fantastic in engaging with public and plastic surgeons and trying to develop social media. As a company, it's, I think, probably the ideal social media site to be on, in that they're not trying to push any financially driven algorithms on the users. So I think as a plastic surgeon, you can benefit for not having to pay any money towards the social media websites. The concise nature of Twitter, you're forced to post with 140 characters, ensures that your message is clear. The ability to link images and links to your academic journal, academic papers, makes it ideal for the academic plastic surgeon. So the American Society of Clinical Oncology, in their 2015 meeting, had 12,000 tweeters, 59,000 tweets, and they reached 262 million timelines, which is quite astonishing. As Aaron mentioned, you can follow the Twitter handle here. I had a look this morning, and in 24 hours, there have been over 3 million timelines reached by some of the tweets that are going on from mainly the people here. I think that's, I can see pretty much all those people here. Dr. Rorich and Aaron Weinstein went to, I think Aaron told me it was pronounced Wame meeting in New Delhi. It was the first meeting of World Association of Medical Editors this year, and they had very well received talks on social media. I think there's a lot of excitement generated amongst the other editors of the journals, and PRS really is leading the way. I was very privileged to be featured on Aaron's presentation, and you can also see Professor Furness, who's Heather Furness's father, well known to all of you, who has joined Twitter recently and I think has seen the benefit of it for academic plastic surgery. So PRS, in addition to encouraging plastic surgeons to tweet, now asks for Twitter handles on all their submissions. They've also published an author checklist, which I'll describe more in a moment. They've also had their first submission with a hashtag in the title, and I think this is really just the beginning. So hopefully in this talk you'll be able to explain to me why I've got 29,000 followers. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll tell you what I think are the reasons. I'm getting about 1,000 followers a week at the moment. I'm mainly tweeting about academic plastic surgery, and it's great that there's that appetite for it, and I think I just encourage everyone to get engaged. Bizarrely, I'm now trending at #1 in the world in plastic surgery, but I think that voice helps us to get the truth out there and to further the profession. So my talk's going to be hopefully all in 25 minutes so that you can all remain interested, but the first part is my tips. Then I'm going to talk about how you can promote your academic papers, how you can promote your brand in your academic practice, and the results of a couple of social media experiments that I've run with Sam Lin, and I can see Parisa at the back, who's been very helpful. So the main purposes of social media for me are really to engage and educate and to help develop our great profession. It can also be used to develop your brand, and what I'd very much recommend is not to self-promote. And if you are interested in content-driven marketing, if you post with integrity, then I think that will carry your brand a lot further. This is our blog in the personally speaking part of PRS, Twitter for plastic surgeons who are too busy to tweet. We were fortunate enough to win, with Patrick Malucci, who's at the back, the best single blog post of the year through the Apex Awards for Publication Excellence. And you can find this on the PRS website. I'm going to distill some of those tips, but you can have a look at that. So why should you be on Twitter? Well, as far back as 2011, the American Academy of Facial Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeons showed that half the patients obtained their information from social media, and it was less than half by word of mouth. I think people still obviously get their information by word of mouth, but I think if you don't exist on social media, I think probably you're going to lose out in the future. Both in the state sector and in the private sector, I think it's important, although you must have good results, I think you need to be able to tell people about those results. So social media is a fantastic way of helping your institution. Twitter's in the top 10 most visited websites in the world, and patients really are starting to say in clinic, I haven't seen you on Google, I haven't seen you on Twitter. And to quote Aaron Weinstein at the WAME conference, if you can't be found on Google, you can't be found. The Twitter posts now are index linked on Google, so all your activity will be found on Google. What I would say, that one of the attractive things about social media is that you can do away with your marketing teams. You don't have to spend thousands of pounds getting people to talk about you. You can be very efficient and talk about your own brand. Actually, social media is very simple. I'm astonished that more people aren't involved, and I think hopefully I'll be able to give you some tips as to how to get started. There are fantastic teams associated with the big plastic surgery institutions and journals. I think you'd be well advised to engage with them and help, and they will certainly help with your academic practice. So the question really it's not should you be involved, but can you afford not to be? I think the way to conceptualize Twitter when you're posting is to think of it as a bit like last night. It's a big ceremony. Everyone in the world who you may want to talk to is there, and some people that you may not want to talk to. And that sort of guides your behavior on Twitter. As you can see here in the WAME conference, there was a bit of a takeoff of the Ellen DeGeneres photograph. I think that photograph was tweeted 1.8 million times in an hour. Perhaps we could try and do something like that for this conference. So other reasons the academic plastic surgeon should be on Twitter, other than having a wide reach, I'll give you some of the stats on some of our articles in a moment. But I think what motivated me to join was seeing a lot of cosmetic surgery type stories by non-plastic surgeons, PR driven in newspapers. And I think it's very important as plastic surgeons to engage directly with the public to try and restore faith in the profession. Certainly in the UK there's a lot of cosmeticians who are practicing non-evidence-based surgery. So here are my tips. I've put them as tweets. I hope you don't mind the non-standard presentation. If you follow your timeline, you'll probably find there's quite a lot of inconsequential twittering. So what I'd suggest that you do is to use lists which are found on the cogwheel here, and you can add plastic surgery legends or whatever kind of list you want to create. So here I curate all the most interesting people that I find on Twitter. ASPS, Dr. Rorich, local hospital, the Royal Marsden, Dr. Song, many other members that you'll see. And in that way you can be very efficient in terms of your retweeting. I spend about 20 minutes a day on my commute each way tweeting, and that's probably the sum total. It's worth saying something original, and what better thing to post than your academic papers and links to those papers. When you post your articles, add a Twitter username, so the Twitter handle, and that way the journal will pick up your tweets and most likely will retweet them. I think there's a very high rate of reposting from PRS. Studies have shown that the tweets correlate well with subsequent citations, and that will probably lead ultimately to changes in impact factor of the journals. There will be blogs and online magazine articles written about your plastic surgery studies, and I think it's always worth promoting those authors as long as they write their articles in an evidence-based way. If you add a picture, you'll double your engagement. Add the hashtags. Please try and use the hashtag plastic surgery. I'll give you some data on why we should in a moment. Don't talk about yourself all the time. I hope I don't do it too much. But I think if you think about the reception, no one wants to talk to someone who's talking about themselves the whole time. Try and talk about evidence-based plastic surgery. Always put a link if you can. It doubles your engagement and it allows the public to read your articles. Increasingly, articles are going to be open access, and that's a fantastic thing. Try and act as you would in a crowd. Be positive. Don't be offensive to any colleagues. if someone's offensive to you, you can just block them, and it's a shame sometimes there isn't a real life equivalent. Do engage with thought leaders, whether they be institutions or individuals, and remember, the bigger the institution, the more likely they are to have a dedicated team. And remember that you're always dealing with people, so be nice. Be as efficient as you can. To start with, I think it's does feel a bit like a labour of love, and it seems very slow to go from 10 followers to 20 followers to 30 followers. But what I would say is, if you persist, after you reach about 2,000, it does become a bit exponential. Try and treat quality and not quantity. The advantage of you managing your own Twitter feed, one apart from it not costing you anything, is that you're going to try and have the same ethical code that you would apply to your practice. So here's the author checklist. You get this email to you when your publications are accepted in PRS, but there's the link if you want it. This really helps to improve the visibility of your articles, and as PRS says, you're in a unique position to be the best marketer for your content. This is our article that's in the current PRS, Publicise or Perish, a guide to social media promotion of scientific articles. It's free to download. There are lots of incentives for all authors to promote their work, but the main thing is there's forever increasing numbers of journals. The journals are getting bigger, there's more and more articles. I think after a month, most articles don't get read, so it's really up to you to engage with the journals and your plastic surgery colleagues to keep those articles in the news. The other thing is that by tweeting directly, that you can ensure the accuracy of those articles. Once a message goes out in digital media, you can't withdraw it. So if you're paying someone who doesn't have the same ethical code as you, and they put something there that you wouldn't agree with, it's not very easy to retract that. What I would say is, obviously, your message will be much more clearly heard if you start with an interesting story. Probably not everything is going to be suitable for Twitter, but it's a fantastic starting place to get public engagement. So this is some examples of some numbers. This was just one tweet that we posted after we heard that Patrick Malucci and I were awarded the Best International Paper of the Year. Just this single tweet had 18,000 people look at it, 2,000 people engaged with it. There were 422 media engagements, and the article was read by 81 people, just from one tweet. This is our article, and we're very grateful to receive the award tomorrow. It's featured internationally in a number of magazines, newspapers, and countless blogs. You know, we obviously think it's a great article, but I certainly think the social media side of things has helped to some extent. It was the most viewed article in PRS for the first 4 months of it being published. It appeared in Fox News, Shape magazine, Health magazine, countless blogs. We can't really count them anymore. So these articles are having altometric scores, and this is very on trend in the editorial world at the moment. And this represents your digital presence and can predict citations and therefore impact factor potentially. This article, when I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, had an altometric score of 136, which puts it in the top 5% of all the articles scored by the app website. You can see very quickly where your article is being read, and of fantastic interest in terms of social media. We found that 2/3 of the retweets about our article were by members of the public, which is very warming as an academic plastic surgeon. As I said, we look forward to the award tomorrow. So in my typical day, this was just an average day. It's not a day where I was trying to push an article to be read more widely. I do about 8 tweets, but those tweets reach 50,000 people. So hopefully you can see that there is some sense in doing this. I'm just going to tell you about a couple of experiments that we're currently submitting to PRS that we've done with Samlin and Parisa. So the first experiment was looking at trending in plastic surgery. So we've found the 25 most trending plastic surgeons on social media, and I'm going to show them to you a bit, and there's a few of them here. So we ran an experiment where we looked at how often the hashtag plastic surgery was used by way of getting messages across to the public by board-certified surgeons. And then we re-ran the experiment after PRS had engaged with the public by promoting the hashtag. The first cycle was in June, the second cycle was in August, and PRS was extremely helpful in promoting the hashtag, and they repeatedly tweeted asking board-certified surgeons to engage using links to their studies and using the hashtag. This was the first cycle of social authority. We probably haven't got time to go through this in detail, but I'll show you the second cycle. So the social authority score is based on your number of followers and your engagement. So you can see here ASPS News, PRS Journal, Dr. Rorich, Dr. Horton, Dr. Lynn, Nigel Mercer from London. If I tell you that the social authority score for Kim Kardashian is 92, you can see that we're doing pretty well. So we looked at the percentage of tweets retweeted. So still not quite sure why I'm getting such a high proportion of retweets, but at the moment, everything I tweet, 97% of those tweets get retweeted. And I think this does contribute quite a lot to your score. We looked at the trending hashtags in plastic surgery, and they found in the first cycle, out of 1,250 posts, over 200 contained the hashtag plastic surgery. Most of the other posts are related to aesthetic surgery, but there is an appearance of, there is breast reconstruction and breast cancer does make an appearance in terms of hashtags. But because of PRS promoting the hashtag for us to use as surgeons, there was a 50% increase in the number of times the hashtag was used. And I really do encourage you to use it. So in our second study, we looked at assessing tweets on topics of plastic surgery. So it's all tweets using the words plastic surgery. We looked at just under 3,000 tweets. We looked at who was posting it, what the topic was, and whether the hashtag plastic surgery was used. This was actually prior to the other experiment. What we found that out of the almost 3,000 tweets, the hashtag was only used in 155 posts. Most of the people posting using the hashtag plastic surgery are actually members of the public, and plastic surgeons accounted for a very small number. So I'm making an appeal to you today with PRS to try to start using this. The subject of the post again was mainly about celebrity aesthetic surgery, both from plastic surgeons and from the members of the public. We only had 2% of posts were on reconstruction, only 4% on safety by plastic surgeons. So I'd really want to try and get you away from celebrity aesthetic surgery and try and tell the public what we actually do. So quite sadly, I found that out of the 3,000 posts, only 18 papers were referenced. 13 of those were referenced by plastic surgeons. Only 2 links appeared to the original articles. Sadly, 37% of the tweets by plastic surgeons were self-promotional. Just to show Professor Furness again, he really encouraged me to carry on doing what I'm doing, and he's seen the power of Twitter. We've posted some of his classic articles just to show how relevant they still are today, and I'm very grateful for his engagement. His fantastic daughter, Heather Furness, who's very engaged with Twitter, has run some analytics in the last week, and we found that the article that we wrote with Patrick Malucci has been seen by 500,000 people, 500,000 people. So I would encourage you to start tweeting. I just wanted to mention Terry because she's going to be watching the video, and she's a patient of Minus's who has asked me to mention her. She found our articles on Twitter and went to her surgeons and had an evidence-based discussion with her surgeons. I've had a lot of messages like that from around the world, from South Africa, Australia, India, and it's fantastic to hear that surgeons are coming to me saying, my patients come to me with an article in their hand asking whether we can do it this way, and I think that's been a fantastic development. So in summary, I think social media is definitely a tool that's going to be growing. I think it's a little bit limitless in terms of what you can do with it, and I think we're just starting to explore what it can do now. Please act with integrity, stop talking about celebrity aesthetic surgery, try and be interesting, post your papers, be evidence-based, try to engage and educate. I think the public has a real appetite for interesting reconstructive plastic surgery, and I think if we can feed that appetite, it can only be a good thing. Social media is very easy. A year ago, I didn't even know what a hashtag was. I wasn't on Twitter. I think it'll be very easy for you to do something similar, and I just wish you all good luck. I've got a lot of people to thank, and I'll leave the slide up so you can see who all those people are. but particularly the PRS and ASPS fantastic team, and all those people that have engaged, and a lot of other people that I haven't mentioned here that I'd like to fit on this slide. So thanks very much.